Welcome again to the Old Principal. I am the Old Principal. I'm glad that you've joined us because this is an opportunity for you to listen to English. My Chinese is 破破烂烂的, but my English fair. It's okay. At least it's my mother tongue, 我的母语. So I'm glad that you've joined us. And today's lesson is number 18, traffic camera. Traffic camera? Traffic camera? Well, there are places in the world that you have a camera, 交通, 相机, okay? And so it takes a picture of people that maybe 不守规矩. Okay? So, before we get into this funny little story, let's just take a moment to listen to the whole thing as Mrs. Ash reads it. And then we'll be back and look at it sentence by sentence.
Number 18, traffic camera. Modern technology has helped the government to enforce traffic rules. For instance, they use cameras to catch people who drive too fast. Cameras are activated by a tiny radar-like system. If the driver is speeding, the camera will take the picture. The picture is electronically transferred to a processing center, and within a week or two, a traffic fine is mailed to the person who was speeding. The following experience was shared on the internet. It teaches a powerful but subtle lesson. The driver tells his story. I was driving in a school zone one dark and cloudy day, when out of the corner of my eye I saw the flash of a traffic camera. I figured that my picture had been taken for exceeding the speed limit, even though I knew that I was not speeding. Just to be sure, I went around the block and passed the same spot, driving even more slowly. But again, the camera flashed. Now I began to think that this was quite funny. So I drove even slower as I passed the area once more, but the traffic camera again flashed. I went around the block a fourth and fifth time with the same results. I was now laughing as the camera flashed while I rolled past at a snail's pace. 2 weeks later, I got 5 tickets in the mail, not for speeding, but for driving without a seat belt. Have you heard of FOTAP? These letters stand for the fallacy of the assumed premise. What does that mean? Some things we know to be true, but some things we assume to be true really are not true. The driver assumed that the traffic camera was for measuring speed, but in reality it was looking for other infractions also. We should always check out our assumptions before we commit ourselves too deeply.
Okay, modern 现代的科技啊, modern technology. Modern technology. I bet that most of, well, I wouldn't say, a lot of those who are watching this program are into modern technology. 电脑, iPhone, iPad, smartphone, Android, all of these things. So exciting. 100 years ago, when I was young, well, maybe not exactly 100 years ago, but I am the Lao Xiaozhang. A long, long time ago, the technology was not so good. Nowadays, it's amazing. Modern technology has helped the government to enforce traffic rules. Okay. 执行交通规则，执行交通规则。That's good. Traffic. If you hear somebody say, "Oh, the traffic was heavy today," the traffic was heavy today. 那交通很繁忙的。Sometimes we say the traffic got all stopped up. Okay, traffic jam. 堵塞赛车. Okay, again, we're talking about 交通. For instance, when people use cameras to catch people who drive too fast. Now, this is the one that I generally speak. In fact, in some countries, they even have a sign up that says, "Oh, there's going to be a camera up ahead." To catch people who drive 超速, drive too fast. Going on. Cameras are activated by a radar-like system. Okay, activated 启动. Okay, what activates the camera? Okay, 这个相机是怎么启动的? It has a tiny 小小的 radar-like 有一点像雷达的系统. Okay, and it can see the people, and it can check the speeding, and if the driver is speeding, 真的是超速, the camera will take his picture. Now, all the years, well, this of course been in more recent years, but all the years I have never gotten a traffic ticket, 罚单, and especially I've never gotten one from a camera. But I know many people have. Going on. The picture is electronically, transferred to a processing center. So here's the picture, and somehow 这个用电子的方法 transferred to the processing center, 处理中心. So somebody processes this, and if you drove too fast and they took your picture, within 1-2个星期之内, a traffic fine, 这个罚单, will be mailed to the person who was speeding. And usually it has a picture. So it has a picture of the license plate number, 你的车牌的号码. So you can't say, "No, that wasn't me." Oh, yes, it was, because there is the number. That's your license number, 车牌的号码. So you can't say, "No, wasn't me. It was." In a couple weeks, you get a ticket. Going on. The following experience was shared on the internet. I saw this on the internet. I thought, okay, this is interesting. And it teaches a powerful but subtle lesson. powerful 很强有力的一个教训 okay and subtle still is a 巧妙 subtle that's a good word if something is subtle it's quiet it's 巧妙 it's not open 不是很开放的 so quietly if I say I am just working subtly behind the scenes, that means I am quietly 在背后工作 You don't see me. I'm subtly working behind the scenes. Good word to know. Subtle. Going on. Here is the story that the driver tells. This is his story. The driver is telling his own story. The man says, I was driving in a school zone. School zone? What is a school zone? Well, in America, around a school, 他们有定一个地区, and that's called the school zone. So 一块地区, okay? And in a school zone, they have special driving rules. In America, you can only drive, well, how much? If it's 10, that's 16. 32 kilometers an hour. 20 miles an hour. 20 miles an hour. 32 kilometers an hour. So in the school zone, next to a school, you have to drive very slow. Okay, got that? Okay. I was driving in a school zone one dark and cloudy day. 有暗又多云的一天啊. So it's a dark day. It's cloudy. Usually, when you have thick clouds, they're what? It's very dark. In fact, here in Hong Kong, when you have thick black clouds, it gets very dark, almost like night sometimes. Okay, it was one dark and cloudy day that I was driving in a school zone when out of the corner of my eye. Now, when you say out of the corner of your eye or my eye, then you're talking about 这个你的眼睛这个侧边. You know, this is what we call peripheral vision. If you're looking straight ahead, then you can see things. I say, I can't see my hand, but now I can see it, okay? Peripheral vision. So, if you see out of the corner of your eye, that means you see something happen. This man saw out of the corner of his eye, he didn't turn his head, he just saw out of the corner of his eye the flash of a traffic camera. 闪光 Boom. Well, it was a dark day, so he could see it. Going on. I figured that my picture had been taken for exceeding the speed limit. 我猜 Okay, figured. 我猜想 Okay, maybe that's better. My picture, 我为什么是照我的相呢？我的车子啊。For exceeding the speed limit. Okay, to exceed means to 超过 exceed, to go faster than the speed limit. Speed limit 是限定的速度. So he exceeded and he said, oh, there, I got a picture taken of me. Even though, 尽管 I knew that I was not speeding. Well, sometimes these machines 会 malfunction, 会故障. So he said, even though I knew I was not speeding, I saw flash of light. So, going on. Just to be sure, 要确定, just to be sure, I went around the block, 绕了一圈呢. A block is one piece of land between 4 roads. So I went around the block, just to be sure, 要确定一下. And I passed the same spot, 经过同一个地方啊, 地点啊, spot, okay, driving even more slowly. 开车子开得更加慢. But again, the camera flashed. Oh no. Again. Going on. Now I began to think it was quite funny. 我现在觉得真的是搞笑. Very laughable. So I drove even slower. 开得更加慢呢. As I passed the area, 同一个地方, once more, now the third time, 第三次, going by there. But the traffic light, what? It flashed again. 哇，第三次. Okay, now that's already he's gone by 3 times. And the camera flashed, 这个有闪光灯啊. So he knows that his picture has been taken. Going on. I went around the block a 4th time and a 5th time. 4th time and a 5th time. I went there, and all the same results. 同一个结果. 结果是一样, the same results. 5 times, 5 pictures. Going on. Yeah, now I was laughing. I was now laughing. 我现在笑. As the camera flashed, while I rolled past, that means the car is rolling very slowly at a snail's pace. We use this quite often. Okay? A snail's pace. So, 蜗牛速度. Excuse me. Let me ask you. How fast does a snail go? 蜗牛的速度是多快? We use this to 形容很慢. Okay? Sometimes we say slow as a turtle. A turtle, 这个乌龟. But the slowest animal is a snail. Snail's pace. 这个蜗牛的速度. And so here he is, and he says, I'm driving by now at a snail's pace. So slow. Going on. 2 weeks later, I got 5 tickets in the mail. Okay, 过了2个星期，这个 in the mail 它寄过来5个罚单呢。Not for speeding， 不是因为他怎么样啊，超速， 而是说没有系好这个安全带 seat belt 安全带，没有系好，没有扣好这个安全带。So this is the reason going on. Have you ever heard about FOTAP? If you've heard about FOTAP, you probably heard it from me because I heard it from my professor. And not very many people know about FOTAP. These letters stand for the fallacy of the assumed premise. So there you have it. Okay. Fallacy of the assumed premise. Okay. I'm going to explain this. F-O-T-A-P. FOTAP. FOTAP. What does FOTAP mean? Okay. First of the fallacy. Okay. Fallacy. What is a fallacy? A fallacy is 谬误. Did I say that right? Fallacy. Something that's not right. Something that's wrong. 谬误. Okay. A fallacy of the assumed premise. 假设前提. 假设前提. Okay? Now, I'm going to explain what this means. The fallacy of the assumed premise. Because this is very important. This is something that you and I face every day. And that may be a problem that we need to think about. At least for me, 老校长, I know that many people have this problem. FOTAP, the fallacy of the assumed premise. Okay, going on. Some things we know to be true. Isn't that true? Of course. You know what you know. You know that some things are, you know it's true. 你知道是真的，不是假的。But some things we don't know. We assume. 我们以为 we assume. Okay? Or 假定 well, we'll look at that here. 我们以为是真的 but they are really not true. For some reason, we don't know the truth. 真相我们都不知道 But we think we know. So we assume, 我们认为或以为 that something is true, but it's really not true. Okay, going on. Now, the driver assumed, 他以为 he assumed, that the traffic camera was measuring speed. Well, because traffic cameras usually measure speed, right? Right, that's true. Usually it's just for measuring speed. Okay? 所以他们就测试这个速度。But in reality, 事实上 in reality, 事实上 it was looking for other infractions also. What in the world is an infraction? Okay, an infraction is 不守规矩的 we say 行为 okay infraction is when you do something wrong okay so it wasn't looking just for not just measuring 不只是measuring 的测试速度 it was looking for other 不合法的行为或行动。But see, we got our assumptions all screwed up going on. We should always check our assumptions. We should always check 我们的所假定的前提。我们所假定的前提。Always check them, because what you think may be true, may not be so true. Okay? We should always check our assumptions before we commit ourselves too deeply. Let's see if I can say that in another way. Make sure that you know what you know is really true. Because sometimes what you know is not really true. So you make sure that you have all the information. We should always check that 我们的假定前提是对的，不是错的。Before we commit ourselves, 我们还没有决定，还没有答应，还不愿意这个跟别人合作，等等等等，很多了。Make sure that we know what we know is really true. FOTAP, the fallacy of the assumed premise. With that, we're running out of time. Our email address is theoldprinciple@gmail.com. We do have a website. 我们的网站是 www.theoldprinciple.org. It's been great spending this time with you. I hope you've had fun. I was remembering a lot of interesting things just a few minutes ago. But now I must say goodbye, but I hope to see you next time. Until then, bye-bye.